Thank you, Deb. It's really great to be here. Very glad to be up here in front of you all. And thank you for selecting CEI for this year's next award. The staff and boards of CEI and CEI Capital Management, our New Markets Tax Credit subsidiary, are most grateful to the Wachovia, Wells Fargo, and MacArthur Foundation for their sponsorship of this important program. We also want to recognize Terry Simonet and his team at NCB Capital Impact, with whom we competed, and for whom we have the deepest admiration with their greenhouse model for aging populations. The other two contenders we also would like to congratulate: the Progress Fund in Pennsylvania and Opportunity Fund in California. And by the way, with the Progress Fund, you might be able to bring some of that right up into Maine, because we have we finance Maine Hudson Trails, which is part of the tourist development efforts in Maine. So let's look forward to that. We had a great time together in Chicago on September 7th when we made our finals pitches. We shared our camaraderie and stories and wished each other the best. That time reflected exactly why we are here tonight: to tell our stories, to celebrate partnerships, innovation, and the positive impact our CDFI field is having on the lives of people and communities all over this country. We also want to extend special thanks to Mark Pinsky and the staff and board of OFN for showing us what's possible in the CDFI industry in the pursuit of aligning capital markets with social, economic, and political justice, and we would like to add environmental justice. Mark, hopefully someday we can get that in. You certainly have a lot of segments in this conference on environmental issues, and that's very important. They and many others here tonight, foundations, religious groups, banks, corporations, federal agencies, wealth managers, and we all heard Amy Dominy today talk about some of the barriers to that, but wealth managers, in my view, are increasingly becoming a very important new and revolutionary source for capital access to our work. And I think Starbucks and the branding of this field and what Mark has done in OFN is just tremendous. So actually, I'd like to applaud that. But all of these organizations have provided the building blocks of success for the community development finance industry. Now, in accepting this next award, I feel it's a recognition of the journey of many staff at CEI, and there are many staff here, by the way. I've been trying to figure out how much that costs. We use some of the grant money for that. Where was I on this damn thing? Board members, many board members, and board members are here too. Oh, wow. Funders and partners that have contributed their time, energy, and resources. We're just one among many deserving CDFIs, many of you out here, of course, that do the heavy lifting with concrete projects that benefit people and places left out of the economic mainstream. So thank you, and I would like our staff and some of the board members to rise and just applaud them for making this trip. Thank you. Now, I had the pleasure of having dinner with Eileen Stennerson of Wells Fargo, but also with Brenda Wright, whom I met just tonight, and she's going to like this line. CEI's roots are in the Civil Rights Movement and Economic Opportunity Act of 1964, as were mine coming of age in the 1960s and 70s. And still, in my view, the driving value of all of us gathered here tonight. In many ways, we also owe our existence to the Ford Foundation and faith-based religious groups, particularly sisters religious orders, that help realize the dreams of disenfranchised minority and white populations and communities for their early support of rural and urban community development corporations, as well as community loan funds. laying the ground for the very important work we do. Some of you know that I graduated from a seminary in New York City, and while at the National Council of Churches, worked on domestic and international economic justice issues. In that context, I learned about community-based development all over the world and what we defined as alternative investment, the many opportunities for community-building enterprises that existed in the shadows of corporate economies that dominated our lives. When my wife and I and kids moved back to Maine, her home state, I had the chance to organize CEI, an alternative investment option to the usual portfolios. Now I don't think any of us is so alternative. CEI's mission is to create economically and environmentally healthy communities in which all people, especially those with low incomes, can reach their full potential. As CDFIs, our missions are similar to help redress the great inequalities of wealth, low incomes, and poverty in this country and abroad. The centerpiece of our next award is the Working Partnership Initiative, set in motion by CEI Capital Management. We are the largest new markets tax credit allocatee in the nation, focused on rural America, which represents arguably 22% of the population. Some think it's only 15%. And is often underserved compared to urban areas. To be certain rural regions would benefit, we modified the statute so that 20% of the private capital invested would go to non-metro rural areas. By the way, we have a lot of mixed views about what a definition of rural is, so I've got one for you to take home. We define rural not just by low density or fields or forests or fish, but also the point at which you lock your car so your neighbor won't stuff it with zucchini. In addition to the many large-scale job-creating business investments CCML is financing with tax credits, the Working Partnership Initiative makes use of the multi-billion-dollar program to generate equity funds, grant funds for rural community-based economic development, building the capacity of CEI and our peers and creating even more economic opportunity in our respective markets. We currently have 9 working partners. Next award funds will be used to boost these and other partnerships where we undertake transactions in Maine and elsewhere in rural America. We began the Working Partnership Initiative at the inception of our first allocation in 2003 at a $30 million investment in an historic but declining pulp and paper mill in Millinocket, Maine, which preserved 5,000 jobs and some 300,000 acres of sustainably managed timberlands, the lifeblood of the community. With fees earned, we capitalized the Northern Heritage Development Fund, which since has mobilized $40 million in financing for 80 businesses, 130 units of affordable housing in 5 projects, and the creation or sustaining of some 1,500 jobs in very rural parts of Maine. These businesses are diverse: internet services, seafood products processing, a land trust, health clinics serving 20,000 families, farm worker housing, many located in Washington County, Maine's most down east and poorest county of 33,000, but rich, if not for the resources necessary to tap into the entrepreneurial spirit that abounds in places like this, where the sun first rises on America. The Working Partnership Initiative is an innovative model. By choosing CEI as a next awardee, we believe you highlight investment opportunities in rural America, you acknowledge a widening of benefits that can flow from new markets tax credit transactions, you affirm the important role community-based economic development and financial institutions play in nurturing opportunity, civic life, and culture. I'm faster than the, Sorry. I wanted to take these teleprompters and say, oh, the heck with that, stuff in my pocket and just talk from my heart, but I can't do that. Our first major investment at CEI was in 1979 in a fish processing cooperative in Boothbay Harbor, giving literal meaning to the adage, if you give a person a fish, you feed them only for a day, but if you teach them to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. You have all heard that. Our strategy was to create more value-added and job-creating processing in Maine, as 85% of the fish harvested went to the Boston processors at lower prices. The idea was that no fish should leave Maine with its head on. But the investment also taught me something else, that if you give a person a fishing boat and the investor an accelerated depreciation tax benefit, and then combine that with a lack of regulation to ensure a species sustainability or a cash flow that underpays, underinsures, or doesn't insure at all, the very workers that produce the value, you can earn a rapid internal rate of return, but not gain much else of value for humankind. On the other hand, if you gear the calculation to a triple bottom line return, you can fish forever and take care of people along the way. We did not describe then what we know more about now, that all three components, the economics of a project, its social equity, and its environmental stewardship, must come together if we're to create a world to celebrate rather than one to mourn. In closing, 9 years ago, I joined 20,000 alternative delegates outside the camp, as biblical historians would note, at the World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, South Africa. Développement durable, as the banners in French read, durable. It sounds a little more powerful than durable, durable. What I witnessed there is the great solidarity worldwide, something I think Mark has alluded to in his speech at lunch, which was tremendous, to create durable, just, and healthy communities. None of us is alone. The hope in the human spirit survives in the face of adversity and tragedy. Hope truly gives credence to the 19th century Unitarian minister, abolitionist, and leader of progressive causes, Theodore Parker, and his oft-quoted verse, used by Martin Luther King, again referenced at lunch by Mark, but which you all have heard, but bears repeating. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. It is the same message today, even more sharply etched over this last decade from the financial, military, and environmental injustices and excesses over which we seem to have little sway. We can all leave this excellent conference persuaded that our CDFI industry is gaining political power in the aggregate, that the capital markets are not something we're pursuing, but that are pursuing us, and that the impact we are having is a spearhead of sustainable returns from community investing. As Charlie Spees, who manages CI Capital Management, and I said in our pitch in Chicago on September 7th, we're ready to go. Thank you.